Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? It's your boy Low, man. And we are getting ready to get into a new episode of The World According to Low, man. I appreciate y'all pulling up. Hey, man, it's just been an amazing week so far. I hope you're having another good week. If you don't know, my name is Aloysius Ballard, man. I am a creative director, filmmaker, and just overall producer of all things digital media. That's right, man. We get into it, but my wheelhouse is mainly just directing and producing digital media content, live streams, and all of the such. But a lot of you out there also do a lot of different things and wear a lot of different hats. To my people that are in my loyalty crew, shout out to y'all. Let me give y'all some love. Let me show y'all some love on today. We are getting things. All right, man. All right, calm down. All right. So we're going to get into the podcast today, man. If you don't know, The World According to Low is just based around the world that I live in. I wear, like I said earlier, I wear a lot of hats. And because of that, you know, we have an opportunity to discuss some of those things. I meet some incredible people, some people that make, you know, just the journey and the life that I know to be very fulfilling. And I want to pass that off to you, some of these experiences, some of these tips on how I have done some of the work that I've done. If you don't know, you can always check out my website, aloysiusballard.com. Check out some of the work that I've been a part of. I probably need to go update a lot more stuff, but anywho, you can get a gist of who I am and what I do. All right, so today I want to talk to you about what do we have on the list here? I was asking some of my followers on social. If you don't follow me on social media, just look me up, Aloysius Ballard, or you know, you can look up Beyond Expectations Productions, and I'm sure it'll bring you to me. But yeah, and one of the things people were asking me, some of the filmmakers were asking, were what were 5 things that I felt like every filmmaker should know, right? So I've been in this industry a long time. My first camera that I had was actually like a Samsung HHD, where the hard drive was built in, had a little flip out screen. It was a early camcorder, and I couldn't do much in. I had a little zoom in, zoom out. I could record about 30 minutes worth of footage, and then I had to dump it. But it really allowed me to start working on my craft as a filmmaker. And then I graduated from that to the Canon T2i. That Canon was very intricate in my development, because if you don't know, that was one of the Canon cameras that had the same sensor as the the 5D. So Canon's 5D was their flagship camera back then, and it's still a very prominent camera now, but it was very beautiful and cinematic. So I really fell in love with, you know, making beautiful images and stories with that, even though I sucked terribly. I was really bad, man. I cringe at some of the things that I thought was popping back then. But anywho, it made me who I am. I was able to get into learning how to tell stories visually. And when you put that over 20, 15, 10, 15, 20 years worth of creative development, here we are where we're working and we're doing a lot of good stuff. So I don't want to waste your time, man. We're just going to have a great pod today. I'm in here just so to know people on Patreon are getting to see this in its entirety. I started the show a little differently for them than what you're hearing now. And if you want to join the loyalty crew, you can do that by going to patreon.com and subscribing to aloysiusballard.com. All right, so let's get into the 5 things that every filmmaker should know. These are not all the 5 things that you should know. These are just some things that you should know. Number 1 is learn a lot about why. Now, when I say learn a lot about why, here's what I want you to understand. Anytime we ingest any type of content, audio, visuals, even food and cuisine, when you taste something, anything that affects your sensory as a human, there should be a reason why you're hearing it. I'll give you an example. You ever be sitting in your house and it's quiet, and then you hear something weird, and your body, like you look and you get anxious to discover what was that noise, because it was something that you had no interpretation of why that sound was created or existed. So it puts you into a anxious state of being because you have no understanding about why it was developed, right? So it's the same thing about someone taking a photo of you that you are unaware of. And when you catch them, you want the first thing you think is that same condition. I'm in an anxious state of, why are you filming me, or why are you taking a picture of me, right? So this is my point. When you are a creative telling a story or documenting something that you want people to ingest, you need to make sure that you understand the reasoning and the definition about why. Why does this shot matter? Why am I filming this subject and not that subject? Why am I filming all of these subjects? When you can start to develop an understanding why, it will transcend into a deeper understanding, right? Because why is so multifaceted. I think of why in every step of the way. I think of, why should somebody watch this video from the beginning, right? And then I think about, why am I putting these shots in this order, in this story, and how do they communicate with each other, right? So storytelling can be done a number of ways. You can tell a story from start to finish. You can tell a story from middle, start, finish. You can tell a story from middle towards the end of a thing and then go back to the beginning. There's no necessarily right or wrong way if you execute it properly, but you should always be thinking about why it may be more important for your subject to have this amount of information versus this one, and why it should go here, why it should go there. And the more you shoot and tell stories and talk to your clients, you'll start to understand that why is literally what we do and create for. All right. I don't want to overwhelm y'all with too much on it. And if you want me to go deeper into this, make sure you, maybe I'll do a podcast strictly on breaking down the why. All right. So why is something is my first point. I think first thing that I would suggest that most creatives understand is your why. And that transcends inwardly. Why do you want to be a filmmaker or a creative or a photographer or a musician or whatever the case is? You need to understand that why. And then you can do that within each project. Number 2, stay out of the gear rat race. Now, I'm going to hurt some feelings with this one. I think you should stay out of the gear rat race, mainly because you're not mastering anything. Just think about that, right? A lot of people jump ship on, they buy a camera, they buy a microphone, they buy some gear, and before you know it, you see them 9 months later upgrading to something else. Oh, it has 4K UHD on it. Oh, it has a faster autofocus. Oh, it has this, it has that. Every camera will always have more bells and whistles. And I say this in the most respectful way, but a lot of you don't need all of that because you have not mastered how to properly use the gear you have. Some of you have gear and options overload, meaning that you have far too many opportunities to mess things up. A lot of times, new creatives shy away from the simplistic gear because they think that they have to be the next Spielberg, or they're trying to be the next Casey Neistat, or they have all these things in mind that they want to be and become, and that's not what you should be doing. Rather, you should master one camera and then move on to something else. When I was in film school, we were given an FS 100. Now, an FS 100 was a Super 35 camera. Now, me coming from my Canon T2i, it was a big jump. This was the FS 100 is what they consider a cinema camera. Now, it wasn't the best. The 700 was had a little bit more options, but I appreciate that they gave us the 100, because what the 100 taught me was to learn how to master one specific camera. That camera had limitations in low light. It had limitations in certain scenarios. There was things that we could and couldn't do shot wise with that camera. But overall, the Super 35 sensor allowed us to capture beautiful imagery. Now, a lot of my fellow alumni students and classmates jumped ship on the FS 100. They didn't want to use it because, I got to get a red. They jumped out and they were trying to get, the latest thing that they felt, I can do more than with the 5D Mark III. And, I can do more if I go out and get, a bigger, better camera. One that isn't. And then back then, the Blackmagic was still out. It was a great camera that you could do a lot with. But it was still a new form of camera that people were seeing, right? So, a lot of people jump ship, but then they couldn't really understand how to navigate and work it. Some did because they were in a market where they had more access to hands-on training and people who could teach them how to properly use these cameras. Because if you don't know, Reds, as well as like REs and these kind of major form cinema cameras, take a lot. They're meant for multiple people to operate them. So you would have an AC, you would have, sound, like everybody. There's rows of people doing things that will allow them to help capture, the set or the visuals that were going on as a unit. Now, when you're shooting as a film student, you don't have access to crews like that. A lot of times we were running and gunning and shooting, on our own, setting up the tripod or shooting handheld and doing a lot of different things. So we had to master this camera that we had. Learning how to mark off your focus, knowing how to set your composition, all of these things were things that we had to master. So I tell you, instead of jumping cameras, get something that you can tell a great story with, you can get a good picture out of, and understanding what goes into capturing a great image. Lighting, composition, depth of field, all of those things matter, right? Technique. And if, like I said, any of these topics that y'all hear me talk about, if you want me to do more, make sure you just comment below or message me and say, hey, Lo, can you go more in depth about this, that, or the other? Cool. I'm going to move on. Understand the vocabulary of composition. I was kind of leading into this. A lot of times I talk to new filmmakers or creatives, and this applies, I'm talking directly to filmmakers in this, but this applies to any skill that you want to use. So in filmmaking, we have something that's called the grid. In any frame you have what we call thirds. So you have thirds this way, slice it, and it has 1, 2, 3, and then you have a grid going across horizontally across the map where you got, grid 1, 2, 3. And a lot of times we haven't spent enough time understanding how to create different shots based on that grid, from like medium shots to what we call a cowboy shot or an extreme close up, or a establishing shot, like all of these things that come into your options. Dutch angle shots that can pretty much tell a story based on where things are positioned in a frame, right? A lot of times we don't spend enough time on the craft of understanding the vocabulary of composition. Now, a lot of times, when I when I talk to a lot of upcoming filmmakers, they just say, "Well, man, I don't know. I'm just shooting whatever and just getting it, and I can fix it in post." Man, if you're not contemplating the framing of your shot, your compositions, then why are you shooting? That's like, just running blindly into a fire. You like, man, you need to have a plan of action. That's why we have fire plans, escape plans. Like everything should have a plan. You shouldn't just be reactive, because it's almost imperative that, or you will find yourself rather, you know, fighting to figure out the best way to escape or to get through successfully. So when I say understanding the vocabulary of composition, get you a book. Go on YouTube. Look, find you a PDF. There's so much information. Go to Reddit. There's so much information on, and just because something was created in 1986 or created in 1990, and it doesn't look like the newest stuff, doesn't mean the information is not there. There are a ton of cinematographers, a ton of, when you look at some of these films that were shot years ago, the concept of filmmaking has only evolved, but the basics have remained. So be sure to go out, educate yourself on that. Composition is very vital to your development. Moving on, I wrote down reverse engineer. One of the things I think we don't take enough stock in is thinking about the end of a thing at the beginning. So a lot of times what I like to do when I'm creating films or I'm creating visuals is I like to think about the edit and the viewer before I'm starting to shoot. Because if I can think about what I want the image or the project to look like, then it makes it a lot easier for me to know what I need to capture and shoot. Now, I have a lot of experience with run and gun. I have been hired countless times to come in and document events or moments or stories that we are shooting and running on the fly. So one of the things that I did early on was learn how to edit in my head. Now that's a lot harder than it sounds, and it took me some time to really master that. So one of the things that gave me an edge, and I'll speak to this, one of the things that gave me an edge in this industry was that I could be contemplating how I wanted this story to be told within my own mind as I'm shooting. So when the event or the moment was ended, I immediately could take that SD card out or that recording device and dump it into my MacBook, and I would just be able to go and edit. I knew, oh, let me go get that shot. I already know what shot goes here. I'm going to slow this down. Oh, I remember when he was on stage rocking and the sweat was coming off his face and he like kind of dropped the mic and switched hands and then had the crowd pumping. Like I knew I had a play-by-play edit already in my head. I was able to take those shots and edits and then quickly turn that project around. Same day. When people find out that you can execute quality in a timely manner, I guarantee you'll get calls and you'll get callbacks. Every last one of the projects that I was involved with, before I left, they were already securing me 9 times out of 10 for the next event. Hey, before you go, Lo, here's payment. That was important. Here's payment, but we also want you to go ahead and put on your schedule for whatever the next event was. We want to make sure we go ahead and lock you in so you can do it, because there's something about people having an instant return on investment that allows you to get to the forefront of the conversation. Now, once I made a name for myself and I was able to do that, then I was able to take other opportunities where it wasn't just that. You see what I'm saying? So I want you to know, like, you can do these things, but you got to develop a means of identifying yourself and your work to stand out and be unique. This leads me to my last one that I want to talk about. And I say this because I see a lot of people pop out, but they don't have longevity. One of the things that hinders a lot of creatives and filmmakers today is that they can create a really dope video. And a lot of these templates make it easy for you to create these hot little quick videos. Oh, it was dope. And really, it's not even that you necessarily are telling the story. You just got a template and some After Effects and some things that are allowing you to be hot right now. But then when the trend changes, because everybody's doing it, a lot of y'all get lost and you don't get any more work because you're dependent on templates. You're dependent on effects. You're dependent on, copying somebody else's style that's currently making a mark for you to be relevant. It doesn't matter how great templates are. I don't depend on that. I want to be able to edit my storytelling and my shots to the point where people are wanting to call me back again. And my point is, you're only as good as your latest project. Because a lot of you go out, you do things, you copy in somebody else's flow, you're copying somebody else's style instead of developing your own. And I call it the Casey Neistat syndrome. Casey Neistat always opened his video with a dope time lapse. He had his block letters, Casey Neistat vlog, whatever. And I get it. It was fun. I went on a whole vlogging thing based on Casey because I was so inspired. But then I realized I was making Casey more famous because I wasn't telling my story the way I would tell it. I was telling my story the way he would document it. Drake has a saying that, why should I be afraid when all I see is me in the industry that I'm in? Y'all solidifying me. And I think that is really the reason Drake has been so creatively involved in culture this long at the top, because everybody mimics what he does. And then you see him go off and create something new. They laugh at it. Like when he did, you used to call me on my cell phone. Doom, 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 doom. All right. So everybody laughed. They were like, oh man, Drake didn't. But then they realized, no, there was genius to it, because while you're laughing, everybody's paying attention, and I'm giving you something new to ingest. It goes back to the thing I said in the beginning about people understanding the why. Drake understood why he would be different, because y'all are copying me. So that means I got to reinvent myself. I got to come up with a new thing where it's allowing me to do something different, right? And be different and stay relevant. A lot of you are scared to tell your side of the story because you don't think anybody's going to fool with it. They may not fool with it in the beginning, but then it can circulate and become the next thing. I'm an advocate for people being the original version of who you are. I don't want to see you be somebody else. I want to learn who you are as an artist based on your experiences and your lifestyle. How do you see the world? Like the name of this podcast, The World According to Lo. These are my thoughts. This is how I feel. Does that mean that you have to feel it? No, but you can be inspired, you can learn from it, and you can grow. And that's what I want. So let's recap the 5 things that every filmmaker should know. Not all, this is not inclusive of everything. These are just 5 things that we could talk about in this podcast. 1, learn a lot about why. 2, stay out of the gear rat race. 3, and bear with me, we getting through these. Understand the vocabulary of composition. 4, reverse engineer. And 5, you're only as good as your latest project. Remember that. All of these things are things I want you to go and think about. I want you to take your time and develop and really apply how am I utilizing these 5 topics in my development and in my process as a creative and as a filmmaker. Okay? So, I hope you enjoyed learning about these 5 topics today. I had a pleasure discussing them with you. If you would share this with somebody that you know is a filmmaker or creative so that they too can get this information. And I appreciate you for pulling up to The World According to Lo. And until the next time, man, I'm gonna catch you. Peace.